Today I'm going to show you the proper way to sharpen a chainsaw.
You're too low.
I think for most of us, the idea of sharpening a chainsaw freehand, by hand, without any aids or guides is a little bit intimidating. And frankly, it's quite difficult, and there's very few people that can actually do it very effectively. I was recently talking with my friends at Granberg. They produce the chainsaw mill that you guys have seen me use in the past. They make the Alaskan and the mini mill, and they also have a whole line of sharpening accessories that I wasn't really aware of. So I was talking to the guys there. I had some questions about some particular ripping chain, and he said, "Hey, have you considered or have you tried our sharpeners?" And I said, "No, I didn't really know that you made sharpeners." And so he sent out 2 sharpeners. I'm going to give you a quick little bit of history right here. This sharpener right here, the original Granberg file and joint, was invented by Mr. Granberg a long time ago when chainsaws started to come into the logging industry, and guys were trying to file them by hand using single files, and he said to himself, there's got to be a better way. And so he invented and came up with this jig that's still in production today, which simply holds a hand file, and you can file, and it holds the perfect angle, the perfect joint. We're not going to talk about that today. So fast forward to the 21st century, Granberg has adopted that into this small 12-volt electric chainsaw sharpener. It's the same principle as the file and joint. One thing that's really cool about this is that it runs off 12-volt battery. So it's got these long leads on it. I've got it over here to the right hooked to a car battery and a battery charger. Why? Why 12 volt? So you can use it out in the field. You can sharpen your chainsaws in the field. And the way this clamps, for those of us that like to use chainsaw mills, the thing I really like about it is you don't have to take the saw out of the jig. You can actually sharpen it right in place. When he first told me about this, I was a little bit skeptical. And to be honest, when it came here and I opened up the package and started kind of fooling around with it and putting it together, I almost sent it back to him thinking, you know, I don't think so. I don't think that this is going to work for me. But I persevered, and I said, well, maybe I should try it before I have such a strong opinion on it. And I'll tell you this, in all honesty, this is what I'm going to use to sharpen all my chains in the future. It is fantastic. It's so simple to use, it's so quick to set up, and it saves so much time, and it gives you a precision grind that is going to offer performance on your chainsaw that you probably haven't had since your chain was brand new. So enough of the detail, or enough of the history. Let's get into how to set it up and how to use it, and I think you're really going to be impressed how efficient and what a great job it does. So we've got a Stihl 441 here with a 32-inch bar with a standard non-skip chain, a lot of teeth. This is a tedious chain to file. It takes a tremendous amount of time when filing by hand. This jig is going to change that dramatically. So before we set up the jig, we're going to need to install the stone. Mine came with 3 different sizes, and you'll choose the size for the chain that you have. And on the cord itself, it plugs onto the batteries. There's a set of tools here that you can use to tighten this up. You know, I've actually found that just seems to me that tightening up by hand seems to be enough, but we can use this here, there, just to tighten that up there. Now the reason why I'm going to go into detail in this video, because God bless them, Granberg makes excellent products, but their tutorial videos not so much. So, Granberg, you can use mine. Help people get this sorted out. I'll make it simple and easy to understand and not out of focus. All right, so with our stone installed, we've got to set a couple different things. The first thing we're going to do is set up our grind angle, and that's done right here. Let me reposition the camera. All right, the grind angle is determined by this gauge right here. Now, our standard chainsaw chain that we're going to use for cutting is going to be, a rule of thumb is about 30 degrees. And we can see it here, it's marked. There's 35, there's 30 right there. Now if we're going to be sharpening ripping chain, those are going to be more like at 5 to 10 degrees. Alright, there's 2 things we need to set right here. We need to set this little stop, and we need to set the height of our stone, which is going to be done right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. We've already got our 30 degree angle set, and I'm going to set my height. So I want that stone to be just below the top of that cutting blade. And then I want to set this stop. I'll screw this out just a little bit, so I'm just coming in and just barely making contact with that tooth. What I'll do is I'll be a little conservative the first time, and then we'll start it up. We'll make one pass, we'll see how it looks, and then we'll readjust. Once this is set, we don't have to fool with it anymore. We can just go chop, 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 chop. Every tooth is going to be exactly the same, filed perfectly. The guys at Granberg recommend this buffing compound. It comes in a little stick, kind of like a chapstick. And what you do is every 4 or 5 teeth or so, you take this and just run it across there real quick. And what it does is it helps to keep the grinder blade cool. All right, let's file. So how do you know you're grinding your teeth properly? I'll show you what a properly ground tooth looks like. Here's our stone. And as we're grinding, we're laying right in there, right? So what we want is we want to see that polished area right at the bottom of that gullet there. Right at the bottom of that. But we don't want to be grinding down in here. If you see you're polishing at the bottom of this little ravine there, then you're too low. So, but if you find that you're not grinding up into this radius right here, then you're too high. So you just set it there, set your depth, and then carefully run through one tooth. Be real conservative, and then take a look at it. If your polish starts right there, and you're clean all the way up to this point, then you've got a properly sharpened saw. This thing is so good. I'm sitting here catching myself smiling because the process is so enjoyable. I almost sent this back to Granberg when I saw it. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. I looked at this and I thought, this is rubbish. This changes everything. What do you get here is you get consistency and you get precision. And that's what you're lacking with chainsaws. I mean, those of us that have tried to file saws and have filed saws by hand in the past know, and yeah, you can get away with it for a little while, but as those angles get further and further off, the performance goes down and down and down. And it really comes home to roost when you start using these big saws with long bars. It starts to want to cut in a curve. And it's frustrating because you get a chain that you've spent 36-inch or 48-inch bar, you've spent an hour hand filing, and you think it's sharp and you try to cut something that's big and the saw blade, the bar binds up. You're not going to have that with this because you have that consistency. And the goodness doesn't stop there, because also with a quick adjustment we'll be able to dress off the top of the depth gauges or the rakers. I'll show you that at the end. But now we've sharpened every other tooth because we have alternating teeth with the chainsaw, and so we need to sharpen the other side. And to make that transition, it's super simple. The only thing we have to do is just lift this up and then loosen this wing nut here. It's got our gauge on it, and then we'll turn this the other way and we'll set our 30-degree angle, and that's it. And now we're ready to sharpen the other side, the other teeth. And we can do it from the same position right here. And also what we get is, because the sharpener is already preset and our depth gauge and everything is set, we're going to get consistency on both sides. It's going to be exactly the same. Oh no, the video's over and we're not even finished sharpening the chain. well, there's going to have to be a part 2 because this is a detailed process. I can tell you that this is a fantastic sharpening system, and it is going to be my new sharpening system. So hats off to Grandbird for another great product. So if you'd like to watch part 2 where we go over and finish it up, and I'll show you how to use the jig to very quickly top off the raker or the depth gauges, right there. And if you're enjoying this and would like to support the channel, I invite you to click the thumbs up. It really helps and we really appreciate it. So on to part 2, and we'll see you guys over there.